Stay hungry, stay foolish. 4 simple words. But buried inside them is a mindset so powerful, it can change the entire direction of your life. You've heard this quote before. You've seen it on posters, notebooks, Instagram pages, and maybe you've repeated it without thinking much about it. But here's the part almost everyone gets wrong. This isn't a motivational slogan, it's a warning, and it's meant for you. To understand what this truly means, you have to go back to a moment in Steve Jobs' life when everything broke apart. It's 1985. Jobs walks into a boardroom at Apple, the company he built from the ground up, and the board tells him they no longer want him leading it. Imagine that for a moment. The company you created, the company you poured your entire life into, the company you believed would change the world, suddenly turns its back on you. He lost his job. He lost his power. He lost his identity. He lost what he thought was his entire purpose. And for the first time in many years, Steve Jobs had nothing. No plan, no direction, no next step. Most people would collapse under that weight. Most people would settle, shrink, or disappear. But something unexpected happened. In the silence that came after losing everything, Jobs felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hunger, curiosity, possibility. He started exploring again, playing again, experimenting again. He founded Next. He bought Pixar. He dove into new ideas that made no sense to anyone else. He stopped trying to look successful and started trying to learn again. That moment, the lowest moment of his life, is where the seed of this quote was planted. And decades later, standing on a stage at Stanford, Jobs passed that mindset to the next generation. Stay hungry, stay foolish. So let's break this down. Stay hungry doesn't mean ambition. It means something much deeper. Never let yourself become satisfied. Never assume you figured life out. Never believe the best version of you already exists. Hungry people don't wait. Hungry people don't settle. Hungry people don't shrink. Hungry people move. Stay foolish doesn't mean being reckless. It means allowing yourself to try something that might fail, something that might embarrass you, something nobody else understands. Yet, being foolish means being brave enough to learn in public, to take risks before you're ready, to look wrong before you eventually look brilliant. And here's the hard truth behind this quote, the part almost everyone avoids. Comfort destroys creativity. Comfort kills ambition. Comfort quietly turns your life into something smaller than it could be. Jobs wasn't telling those students to chase dreams. He was telling them to fight the slow death of comfort, because comfort feels good, but it steals your future. Now let's talk about you, your life, your career, your choices. This quote is not a philosophy for billionaires. It's a compass for anyone who feels stuck, safe, or stagnant. So ask yourself, are you acting like someone waiting for permission, or someone preparing for the next opportunity? Hungry people volunteer before they're ready. Hungry people learn skills nobody asked them to learn. Hungry people treat every day like an investment in their future, not a checklist to survive. If you want growth, stop waiting for the title. Start behaving like the person who earns it. And, in business, the question becomes even sharper. Are you willing to look foolish? Every great idea begins foolish. The iPhone, Pixar, Apple stores, all of them started as ideas people laughed at. So ask yourself, what idea are you sitting on because you're afraid of looking foolish? And what is the smallest version of that idea you could test this week? Not perfect, not finished, just tested. And in your personal life, when was the last time you were a beginner? One of the saddest things adults do is stop learning new things. We avoid being beginners because it feels uncomfortable, because we don't want to look slow, clumsy, or inexperienced. But that discomfort, that awkwardness, that feeling of being a beginner, that's the proof you're alive. That's the signal you're growing. Ask yourself, when was the last time you tried something new? When was the last time you let yourself be curious? When was the last time you did something not to succeed, but simply to grow? Staying foolish isn't a weakness. It's a superpower. Here's the truth most people never face. You're not stuck because you lack talent. You're stuck because you've become comfortable. Comfort makes your days predictable. Comfort makes your life feel stable. Comfort convinces you that you're okay staying exactly where you are. But comfort is a cage disguised as a gift, and the longer you stay inside it, the harder it becomes to leave. Hunger is powerful. Foolishness is necessary. But even these two things won't save you from the one force none of us can escape: time. Because no matter how driven, curious, or ambitious you are, you only get a limited amount of time to use any of it. And that brings us to Steve Jobs' next lesson, one that hits even harder than the first. Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Most people hear this and nod politely, but almost no one realizes how painfully true it actually is. Because the truth is this: most of us are living by expectations that aren't even ours. We're following a script we never wrote. We're chasing goals we never chose. We're performing for an audience we don't even notice anymore. And Steve Jobs only understood this when life forced him to confront something none of us want to think about. There was a moment, quiet, heavy, terrifying, when Jobs was told he might not survive his cancer. He might not see his next decade. He might not finish the work he loved. He might not watch his children grow up. Imagine that for a second. Imagine sitting in a doctor's office, the world suddenly silent, and realizing the countdown on your life just got shorter. Jobs described that moment as a slap of clarity, a violent reminder that everything we think we have can disappear without warning. And when you stand face to face with your own mortality, something strange happens. The noise of the world suddenly becomes irrelevant. The expectations, the judgments, the pressure to fit in, the pressure to look successful, the pressure to please people who barely know you, all of it becomes meaningless. And what remains is the simplest, purest truth you will ever face. Your time is limited, and you have absolutely no idea how limited it is. So let's talk about what this actually means. Time is the only resource you can't earn back. Not money, not opportunities, not relationships. Time. Every hour you lose to a life that isn't yours is an hour you never get to reclaim. And here's the hard truth. Society is constantly pushing you toward a life that fits its expectations, not yours. Go to this school, get this job, follow this path, look successful, stay safe, stay normal. Don't make people uncomfortable. Don't take risks. Don't disappoint anyone. It's a script designed to keep you predictable. But predictable is not the same as fulfilled. Most people live more for approval than for purpose, more for acceptance than for authenticity. And the cost of that is your entire life. So let's bring this back to you. In your career, how many decisions have you made because they were safe? Because they impressed your parents? Because they looked good on paper? Because you were afraid to choose the thing that actually mattered to you? Jobs didn't build his life by following expectations. He built it by breaking them. So ask yourself, are you building your career as a reflection of your potential or a reaction to someone else's opinion? And in business, how many ideas have you abandoned because they weren't realistic? How many times have you chosen the option that looked responsible instead of the one that felt meaningful? You cannot build anything great while living someone else's definition of success. Stop building what people expect. Start building what matters. And in your personal life, how much of your daily routine is shaped by obligations that have nothing to do with who you are? Think about it. The events you attend, the people you try to impress, the goals you chase, the dreams you delay, the boundaries you avoid setting. How much of that is truly yours? Your life shrinks every time you choose approval over authenticity. And every year you live for others is a year stolen from the person you were meant to become. Here is the truth that cuts the deepest. You don't need more time. You need fewer distractions. Distractions from who you are. Distractions from what matters. Distractions from the life you know you're avoiding. And the cruel part, those distractions often look responsible. They look correct. They look socially acceptable. They look safe. But safe kills dreams. And safe steals years. So if your time is limited, and it is, then every choice you make becomes incredibly important. Every job you stay in out of fear. Every relationship you keep out of guilt. Every expectation you obey out of habit. Every dream you delay because it feels inconvenient. They all cost time. And time is the one currency that never refunds. So the question becomes, if your time is limited, what will you choose to focus on? Your purpose or their expectations? Your voice or their approval? Your life or the version of you they want? Because once you understand how fragile time truly is, you stop living on autopilot. You stop performing. You stop pretending. And you start choosing. Choosing what matters. Choosing what aligns. Choosing what feels like your life, not the one you inherited from others. And this leads us directly to the next lesson. Because once you stop living someone else's life, you'll realize that real leadership, real direction, real meaning comes from a different place. It comes from innovation, from action, from courage. And that brings us to the next quote, one that defines the difference between those who follow and those who lead. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. Leadership isn't a title. It's not a corner office. It's not a business card. Leadership is a mindset, and it's a mindset most people avoid because it demands risk. Most people want certainty. Leaders move without it, and nothing captures this truth more clearly than the moment Steve Jobs walked back into Apple in 1997. Apple was an Apple. Not the Apple you know today. Not the trillion-dollar company. Not the icon of design and technology. Back then, Apple was dying. Sales collapsing. Products failing. Factions fighting inside the company. Analysts predicting Apple would be gone within a year. Weeks from bankruptcy. Months from disappearing forever. And that was the moment Jobs returned. Not to celebrate, not to enjoy success, but to take responsibility for a sinking ship. When he arrived, he didn't sugarcoat anything. He didn't walk in with inspirational speeches. He didn't pretend things were fine. He told the team the truth. Apple was building too many products, trying to please too many markets, and wasting too much time on ideas that didn't matter. So he did something crazy, something radical, something only a leader with nothing to lose would do. He cut everything. Dozens of products, hundreds of ideas, entire divisions, millions in investments, gone. Jobs simplified the entire company down to 4 products: a consumer desktop, a pro desktop, a consumer laptop, and a pro laptop. 4. From dozens. People thought he was insane. Analysts said it would kill the company faster. Critics said he didn't understand the market. But Jobs understood something deeper. Innovation is not creativity. Innovation is courage. He wasn't trying to make more things. He was trying to make the right things. And that decision, that bold, terrifying, lonely decision, saved Apple. Not because it was safe, but because it wasn't. Innovation isn't a spark of genius. It's a willingness to step into uncertainty while everyone else waits. Followers wait for permission. Leaders act before certainty. Followers need validation. Leaders trust their vision. Followers watch the world. Leaders build it. And here's the hard truth most people never admit. Most people follow not because they lack ideas, but because leading requires one thing they're terrified to carry: accountability. When you lead, the success or failure lands on you. When you lead, you're responsible for the outcome. When you lead, you lose the safety of saying, "Well, it wasn't my call." Leadership isn't glamorous. It's pressure. It's risk. It's responsibility. So, what does this mean for your life? In your career, leadership isn't about your job title. It's about solving problems others ignore. It's about raising your hand when others stay silent. It's about seeing a better way and taking the first step before anyone asks you to. Leaders don't wait to be chosen. They choose themselves. In business, innovation isn't about building more features or chasing trends. It's about simplifying, removing clutter, removing noise, removing what doesn't matter. Innovation is clarity in a world addicted to complexity. And outside of work, in your personal life, leadership shows up in the smallest, most human ways. Choosing action when others choose hesitation. Choosing responsibility when others choose excuses. Choosing growth when others choose comfort. Every day, you are presented with moments to lead. Confronting a difficult truth. Making a decision no one else wants to make. Taking initiative when everyone else is waiting. Doing the right thing when the easy thing would be to do nothing. Leadership is a habit. Innovation is a choice. And courage is a muscle. But here is the truth that separates leaders from followers. You can't lead if you're terrified of being wrong. And that's why innovation is rare. Not because people lack ideas, but because they lack the courage to risk those ideas failing. Leaders move anyway. Leaders step into uncertainty. Leaders bet on a future only they can see. And when they do, something extraordinary happens. People follow. But innovation alone isn't enough. It only becomes powerful when the experience itself is simple, clear, and effortless. Which leads us to the next lesson, a lesson that shaped every product Steve Jobs ever touched. Design is not just what it looks like or feels like. Design is how it works. Design is not just what it looks like. Design is how it works. We live in a world obsessed with aesthetics. Polished interfaces, perfect colors, sleek shapes, aesthetic minimalism. But beautiful things don't matter if they don't work. Real design isn't decoration. Real design is clarity. And no story proves this more powerfully than the creation of the iPod. Before the iPod existed, Apple had dozens of prototypes. Engineers would bring version after version to Steve Jobs, each one packed with features, menus, buttons, options, the kind of complexity you'd expect from a cutting-edge device. And Jobs kept rejecting them, one after another, prototype after prototype. No, not this, not enough. Too complicated, too many steps, too much thinking. Because Jobs wasn't chasing features. He wasn't chasing innovation for the sake of appearing advanced. He was chasing something far more difficult: effortlessness. His obsession was simple. I should be able to reach my music in 3 clicks. 3 clicks, not 7, not 5, 3. He wanted a device your grandmother could use without reading a manual. He wanted a device a teenager could navigate without thinking. He wanted technology to disappear so the experience could come forward. And that's when the iPod became the iPod. Not when they added features, but when they removed them, not when they made it powerful, but when they made it simple. Because the truth is this: design is not about adding. Design is about subtracting. Design is not about impressing. Design is about understanding. Design is not about making something look elegant. It's about making something feel effortless. Design equals user experience. It equals clarity. It equals the removal of friction. And here's the hard truth. If people need instructions, the design has already failed. Think about how many things in your life you've abandoned simply because they were too confusing. A product that felt overwhelming. A website you couldn't navigate. A job process that felt like chaos. A relationship filled with unnecessary complexity. Human beings don't crave features. They crave ease. They crave flow. They crave something that works without forcing them to think twice. So let's bring this back to you. In your career, design shows up as simplicity, not in visuals, but in how you work, how you communicate, how you solve problems. A complicated workflow isn't a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of confusion. A simple workflow, a simple message, a simple decision, that's mastery. People respect the person who can take something complex and explain it in one sentence. People follow the person who removes confusion. People trust the person who makes things easier. In business, the lesson becomes even sharper. Customers rarely choose the product with the most features. They choose the one that demands the least effort. Think about every product you love. Your favorite app, your favorite device, your favorite service. You love them because they make your life smoother, not because they overwhelm you with options. Friction kills loyalty. Simplicity builds trust. So ask yourself, where are you adding complexity to your work or business? Because you think it looks impressive? And what would happen if you focused entirely on removing friction instead? And in your personal life, design is everywhere. Your routines, your finances, your relationships, your environment, your habits. Most of the stress you carry isn't from the big things. It's from unnecessary complexity. Too many commitments, too many tasks, too many mental tabs open at once, too much clutter in your physical world and in your emotional world. Imagine what your life would feel like if you removed everything that didn't matter. The unnecessary subscriptions, the obligations you hate saying yes to, the habits that drain your energy, the guilt that keeps you stuck, the relationships that confuse you instead of support you. Simplicity is the path to clarity. Clarity is the path to power. And this is the moment where most people misunderstand simplicity. They think minimalism is simplicity. But minimalism is an aesthetic. Simplicity is a skill. Simplicity isn't about empty spaces. It's about intentional spaces. It's not about doing less. It's about doing what matters. Simplicity isn't minimalism. It's mastery. The more you understand something, the simpler you can make it. The more skilled you are, the fewer steps you need. The more confident you become, the fewer words you use. This is why the greatest leaders and creators in the world obsess over simplicity. Because simplicity is efficiency. Simplicity is clarity. Simplicity is freedom. But simplicity alone isn't enough. It becomes powerful only when you learn to trust the quiet voice inside you. The voice that says, "This is the right path," even if nobody understands it yet. And that leads us directly to the next lesson: the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Your intuition knows your future, long before your mind does. Most people don't realize this. They think intuition is some mystical feeling, a soft emotion, a hopeful guess. But intuition is something far more powerful. It's the quiet voice inside you that sees patterns you haven't fully understood yet. And Steve Jobs discovered this truth in one of the most unexpected places: a calligraphy class. After dropping out of college, Jobs wandered the campus with no plan. He wasn't enrolled. He wasn't earning credits. He wasn't working toward any degree. He simply followed whatever pulled him in. One day he walked past a calligraphy class, and something in him paused. No logic, no career path, no promise of money, just intuition. So he followed it. He sat in the class. He learned about serif and sans serif types, about spacing, proportion, balance, about how typography isn't just letters. It's emotion, rhythm, personality. To anyone watching, it looked useless, a waste of time, a distraction from real life. Years later, when Apple created the Macintosh, Jobs' intuition returned. He demanded beautiful typography, fonts with elegance, character, harmony, not because the market asked for it, not because data supported it, not because anyone expected it, but because his intuition had been building toward that moment long before he ever knew it. And that decision, that strange, illogical, intuitive decision, changed the entire history of personal computers. Because intuition is not random. Intuition is pattern recognition built from years of experience. It collects everything you've seen, felt, learned, and observed into a quiet sense of direction. Intuition whispers what logic cannot explain yet. But here's the hard truth. Most people ignore their intuition because it threatens their comfort. Intuition pulls you toward growth. Comfort pulls you toward safety. Intuition asks you to try something new. Comfort asks you to repeat what's familiar. Intuition stretches you. Comfort protects you. This is why so many people stay stuck. Not because they lack opportunities, but because they silence the one voice, trying to move them forward. So let's bring this back to your life. In your career, intuition shows up every time you feel like you've outgrown your role. That subtle discomfort, that sense that you're meant for something more, that whisper saying, "You're not learning anymore, you're not growing anymore. It's time." Most people ignore that whisper. They wait for logic to justify the change. They wait for the perfect conditions. They wait for someone to validate their feelings. But intuition doesn't explain itself. It nudges you. It pushes you gently. And it waits to see if you'll trust it. In business, intuition appears as early signals, signs the data isn't strong enough to confirm yet, a pattern customers haven't fully articulated, a direction that feels right even when the world doesn't see it. Public approval comes last. Intuition comes first. And in your personal life, intuition is often the clearest voice of all. It tells you which relationships drain you. It tells you which habits are holding you back. It tells you when something feels wrong, even if you can't articulate why. It tells you when something feels right, even if you're afraid to admit it. Intuition is the compass. Courage is the step. And here's the truth. Logic explains the past. Intuition builds the future. Your future will not be created by spreadsheets, predictions, or safe decisions. Your future will be shaped by the moments you listen to the voice inside you, the one that sees who you could become. But intuition alone isn't enough, because following your heart often means walking away from certainty. It means people won't understand you. It means you'll take risks you can't justify yet. It means you'll make decisions that feel lonely. So, to follow your intuition, you need something more than insight. You need endurance. You need persistence. You need the strength to walk the path, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. And that leads us directly to the next lesson, a truth about success that most people never want to hear. Half of what separates successful people from unsuccessful ones is pure perseverance. Half of what separates successful entrepreneurs from the non-successful ones is pure perseverance. Talent matters. Skill matters. Opportunity matters. But persistence, the ability to keep going when everything says stop, that's what separates the people who dream from the people who build. And nothing proves this more clearly than the story of NXT. After being fired from Apple, Steve Jobs created a new company, NXT. He poured years into it. millions of dollars, his vision, his pride, his identity. And what did he get in return? Failure. NXT was a financial disaster. The computers were too expensive. The market didn't want them. Critics mocked them. Investors doubted them. And, for years, NXT looked like nothing more than a high-profile mistake. Most people stop here. Most people quit when the world says, "You were wrong." Most people walk away when their effort doesn't match their results. But Jobs didn't quit. He kept building. He kept refining. He kept improving a product, even when almost no one believed in it. He wasn't chasing validation. He was chasing clarity. He knew something the world hadn't seen yet. And here's the twist the world never expected. Years later, when Apple bought NXT, the failed operating system Jobs built, the one nobody believed in, became the foundation of Mac OS, the software running every modern Mac today. The failure became the breakthrough. The loss became the seed. The dead end became the turning point for the most valuable company in the world. Not because it succeeded immediately, but because Jobs didn't abandon it. This is the nature of perseverance. It's not stubbornness. It's not ego. It's not blind hope. Perseverance is sustained clarity through repeated failure. It's the ability to look at a setback and say, "This is data, not defeat." Because winners aren't always smarter. They're simply more durable. They can take more hits. They can sit with more uncertainty. They can survive longer than their doubt. And here's the hard truth. Most people quit right before the breakthrough. Not years before, not months before, but right before something could have shifted. The opportunity was one step away. The connection was one decision away. The momentum was one attempt away. But quitting always feels logical, until you see what could have happened if you held on just a little longer. So what does perseverance look like in your life? In your career, consistency beats intensity. Anyone can push hard for a week. Anyone can stay motivated when things go well. But very few people can keep showing up, day after day, month after month, when the results are slow, when the progress is invisible, when no one is cheering for them. Your career won't be defined by explosive moments. It will be defined by consistent effort, in the moments when nothing seems to be happening. In business, failure is not a judgment, it's data. Every failed idea tells you what doesn't work. Every setback reveals a weakness. Every mistake shows you the next step. People who win in business aren't avoiding failure. They're collecting it, studying it, learning from it. Failure is the tuition. Persistence is the graduation. And in your life, perseverance is the difference between who you are and who you could become. Most people chase perfection. They want the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect timing. But perfection is paralysis. Success comes from persistence, from being willing to start before you're ready, to continue before you're confident, to persist even when you're uncertain. Momentum comes from showing up. Growth comes from repetition. Breakthroughs come from endurance. And here's the truth that unlocks everything. Perseverance makes the impossible inevitable, because anything you stick with long enough eventually bends to your effort, not immediately, not dramatically, but gradually, silently, powerfully. Your persistence shapes your future, long before your results show it. And this endurance, this discipline to keep going, reveals something Steve Jobs believed even more deeply: simplicity. Because the clearer your purpose becomes, the simpler your actions must be. And that brings us to the final lesson, a principle that shaped every product, every decision, every idea Jobs ever created. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. The most brilliant ideas are invisible. They don't announce themselves. They don't show off. They don't need decoration. They feel obvious only after someone else creates them. And that's what makes them powerful. And no moment captures this truth better than the debate over the original iPhone design. Back then, smartphones were complicated. They had keyboards, buttons, menus, layers of functions. Manufacturers believed more buttons meant more usefulness. More controls meant more capability. More features meant more innovation. And then came a radical idea. What if the phone had one button, just one? When Steve Jobs proposed this, engineers thought it was impossible. Designers thought it was too risky. Competitors laughed. The industry believed a phone needed complexity to appear advanced. But Jobs understood something they didn't. Complexity is a disguise. Simplicity is the revelation. Complexity hides the fact that people don't truly understand what they're building. Simplicity forces clarity, purpose, mastery. Jobs wasn't obsessed with minimalism. He was obsessed with essence. He didn't want fewer buttons. He wanted fewer decisions, fewer barriers, fewer moments where the user had to think. To him, design wasn't about appearance. It was about the feeling of effortlessness. That one-button design changed everything. It set the standard for smartphones. It reshaped modern technology, and it proved a truth the world often ignores. Simplicity isn't the starting point. It's the destination, and reaching it is incredibly hard. Because simplicity requires eliminating what's unnecessary, and letting go is harder than adding more. Adding feels productive. Adding feels impressive. Adding feels safe. Removing feels risky. Removing feels exposing. Removing forces you to choose what truly matters. That's why most people stay in complexity. Complexity gives them a place to hide, a place to avoid decisions, a place to mask uncertainty. Simplicity demands courage, clarity, discipline, and that's why true simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. So let's bring this into your world. In your career, simplifying your priorities is the difference between progress and burnout. Most people try to do everything, every task, every meeting, every idea, every responsibility. They confuse activity with achievement. They spread themselves so thin that nothing they do actually moves them forward. But when you simplify, when you choose fewer things with more intention, you unlock momentum. Your work becomes sharper. Your results become clearer. Your growth becomes faster. In business, simplicity is the foundation of loyalty. People don't remember complex products. They remember clear ones. One promise. One problem solved. One value they can feel. Apple didn't win by building everything. It won by refining the few things that mattered most. And in life, simplicity is freedom. Your stress doesn't come from the big things. It comes from noise, distractions, obligations you didn't choose, habits that drain you, people who confuse you, goals that aren't yours, objects you don't need, thoughts that repeat endlessly without purpose. Imagine stripping all of that away. Imagine waking up with space, mental space, emotional space, physical space. Imagine a life built around essentials, not excess. A life where your time goes to what matters. Your energy goes to who matters. Your attention goes to what moves you forward. This is why simplicity isn't aesthetic. It's character. It's wisdom earned over time. It's the courage to say no, the discipline to remove, the clarity to choose. Simplicity isn't easy. It's earned. It's the product of thousands of decisions. To refine your life instead of complicating it. To understand instead of decorate. To focus instead of distract. To choose direction instead of drift. And when you master simplicity, you stop surviving life and start directing it. Because simplicity gives you control. It gives you power. It gives you space to build a life that looks like you and no one else.